everyone. Today I wanted to share with you guys of how you can tell if a brand is sustainable. Just in case you're doing your own research, or if you discover a new company and you want to learn more or are trying to make a little bit more conscious decisions with your purchases. The first thing I do when I discover a new brand, or if I just want to do some research into a brand that I've been purchasing from in the past, is I go to their website. First, I look for their About page, usually towards the bottom of their website. And if I see in their mission statement or in that About page content that they're talking about what measures they're taking to create more sustainable practices, how they want to create pieces that are quality and have a lower carbon footprint, if they're talking about the eco fabrics that they're using, generally these are some signals that show that this is a company that is going the extra mile to create sustainable, eco-friendly practices. If this isn't clear right from the get-go on that About page, you may need to do a little bit more digging to see what is the true mission behind the company. Are they taking these things into consideration or not? A great example of a brand that has a great mission statement and is very thoughtful about sharing and being transparent with their practices is Brass Clothing. If you go to their About page, it'll show a variety of information of how they're trying to create high quality, ethical basics for every woman's wardrobe. Something to kind of note or potentially even watch out for is you may see a corporate social responsibility statement of some of the larger brands of the world. While this is great, a lot of times these reports are made more for shareholders and to kind of boast the company's good things that they're doing, but may not necessarily be proof that they're taking and going the extra mile to make their practices more sustainable. Some things to kind of watch out for is if these statements really are kind of like very general and broad. If they say that they're following local labor laws, that's great, but you kind of have to do that as a company to make sure that A, you don't get sued and that you're following government laws. So it's kind of like the baseline that a company can really do. But if they're talking about how they're innovating their practices and their production to reduce their carbon footprint, to be more conservative with the raw materials that they use, such as water use or different things like that, then that shows that they're actually taking efforts to be a more responsible company. And a good example of this is actually Gucci. If you look at their consumer report statement, it has some of those more finer details of ways that they're trying to be more smart with the resources that they do use to make their goods. The next thing I do is I actually look at the products themselves on the website and check what materials they're using to make their goods. For a sustainable company, they will usually focus on dead stock, which is fabric that has been used by other larger manufacturers, and they'll sometimes have leftover fabric that they just can't make enough units with. So other smaller handmade designers or smaller brands will sometimes buy that up to make their own goods, dead stock, so it's also called upcycling of fabric. Another great thing to tell is if they're using vintage fabric, so again, another kind of form of upcycling, or if they're using renewable products, so your linens, your silks, your organic cotton, even though it takes a little bit more water than others, but those are all materials that will biodegrade and break down, unlike your polyesters of the world. So after I kind of look at the About page and try to get more of the meaning behind the company, I look at the products to see what materials they're actually using and see if they're kind of carrying the sustainability process from production through their actual products. Something to note too, while you can do a lot of research on your own, I always look at the company website, obviously. You can also ask. I love, if I don't see enough information from a company, I love asking them more, either by sending them an email, or sometimes I'll just like message them through Instagram or whatever social media platform feels right for connecting with the brand. Most brands are very open about sharing a little bit into their practices. If they're not very open or don't respond to you, that's kind of telling in itself. But you can always feel free to ask the brand directly what their thoughts are on these topics that you deeply care about. There are also other nonprofit website resources that will evaluate brands on their manufacturing, their worker conditions, their environmental footprint, production, all of these things. But I generally kind of take these as well with a grain of salt. I would rather figure out the truth kind of for myself, base it off of what I personally care about and the factors that go into how I make my decisions. And I like to get information directly from the brand instead of a third party. I feel like sometimes third parties, they're doing their best, but they might not always have the full scope of the truth. So I usually lean on my own research and connecting with the brand directly, but there are these resources out there that you can leverage as well if you're just starting out or just have some baseline questions. And finally, if you've discovered a new brand or a new designer and you're not sure about their processes, another alternative too, while it's great to support these new and small businesses or businesses that are being more transparent with their practices, another great alternative is shopping secondhand or shopping for vintage pieces. This way, you don't feed into any demand whatsoever. It is really one of the most sustainable ways to still add pieces to your wardrobe when you need or when you really, really want to, but it's having the least amount of impact on the environment because A, these garments are already in existence and they already have used resources, so you're not feeding into demand and not demanding that more resources be used to make new garments. So this is really a great way to kind of still follow a more conscious consumer approach, and it can be a little bit more budget friendly at times. A lot of my closet is actually purchased secondhand just because I know that I can still get a good quality piece, but maybe somebody just didn't work for them, so I purchased it secondhand at like a fourth of the cost and don't feed on that demand, and it's really, really great and a more approachable sometimes and affordable means of being a conscious consumer. Thanks for watching, guys. Hopefully you've learned a little bit more about how to tell if a brand is sustainable, or at least some steps that you can take to learn more about this brand or designer that you just discovered. If you liked what you saw, please hit that like button and feel free to ask any further questions that you have. I'm happy to go deeper on some of the topics that I covered here, so just let me know any further questions you have, and I will see you on the next one. Thanks.